I could start there.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to all. Biodiversity, such a vital topic to discuss. To many people, biodiversity is almost synonymous to the word nature. And nature brings to mind steamy forests and the big creatures that dwell there. Fair enough. But biodiversity is much more than that. For it encompasses not only the diversity of species, but also the diversity within species. Biodiversity is the food we eat, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. More than that, biodiversity is part of us as we humans are the part of nature. It is very important to know the biodiversity of the place we live. Chennai, the capital of our state, has extremely high level of biodiversity. I am delighted to welcome you all to this webinar on Chennai Biodiversity, Past, Present and Future, organized by Department of Information Technology in association with Guru Nanak Center of Research along with the Organization of Industrial, Spiritual and Cultural Advancement. I now invite our Honorable Principal M.G. Raghunathan sir to deliver the presidential address.
That was actually a small change. I request our BP2, Rajeshri Madam, to deliver the welcome address. Madam, Rajeshri.
Good afternoon. Namaste. Welcome to the chief guest of today, who is a resource person, and the biodiversity is very close to his heart. It's wonderful to hear from him. And my welcome to our General Secretary and Correspondent, Sardar Manjit Singh Nair ji, our great pillar of support and the man behind all these shows, our dearest principal, Dr. M.G. Raghunathan, Dean Research, Dr. Jayanti, the department head, Dr. Vanati. I should first congratulate all of you to bring in such a wonderful and a dynamic topic, biodiversity, past, present, and future. Mr. MURUGAVEL is here. He is going to share all his views. Sir, I would like to share one thing here. I welcome all the participants who are interested and you are joining today. You are going to benefit by it. At the end of the day, if you are carrying even one single point, what Mr. MURUGAVEL is going to share with us, I think the purpose gets served. Lot of efforts have gone into organizing all these things for the students and others to get benefit out of it. For sure, I will say 15 months back when you talk about biodiversity, please wait, I'm going to office, I'll come back and talk to you. That would have been the answer. But now, the pandemic, though it is disturbing all of us, it has given us a right kind of thinking about the nature. If we have internalized it, our future of biodiversity will be really good. Each and every one of us have to contribute at least a minuscule, a nanoparticle towards it. It is done. Our world will be very good to live, and we will also make the other beings very comfortable and be with us. We haven't thought about nature because of running all around. And at one point of time, when everything came to a standstill, we were absolutely shocked. And what to say? We didn't have words to speak. At that point, people slowly started internalizing what is around us, what is happening around us. The sensitivity wasn't there. To my knowledge, 90% of us didn't realize it at all. But 10%, they were all the time working towards it. So, sir, we are fortunate enough to have you for this fantastic program. With these few words, I deem it a great pleasure to be here and thank all of you who are in the platform and who have come here to learn about and thank our resource person profusely for accepting it. Thank you so much. I am delighted, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Before getting to the session, it is mandatory to know about the special guest of today's webinar. I now request
Daya,
Dr. J. Vanathy,
Daya,
Department of Information.
Okay, madam, right. I take the charge now. Most esteemed resource person of the day, Dr. Kumaravel, and also my friend for the past 3 decades. And Dr. Kumaravel and me were associated in Pachivas College, and also I saw him in Tyagara College, and still the relationship continues. I am happy that the GNCR and in association with the Department of IT and in collaboration with OISCA has arranged a wonderful topic of common interest, that is Chennai biodiversity, past, present, and future. Because see, everybody has one view. We should listen in the through the words of the experts. I heard that the present resource person is the head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. Sir, I am very eager to listen to your lecture on this topic of my interest. It is very close to my heart. Every day, any department, whenever they organize any webinars, I'll ask them, say, invite me, I'll give some lecture on these environmental studies and the environment or biodiversity, because our science subject is also environmental sciences, like that. So, both the GNCR and the IT department, Dr. Vanathy, has come to a consensus and brought a wonderful topic. This is a topic of interest. So many of my colleagues are now, they are waiting in the YouTube to listen to your lecture, sir. And I'm very happy, and I wish GNCR, Dr. J. Jayanti, Dr. Vanathy, the host of the program, Dr. Sharmila, and even the person, the student, Daya, Miss Daya, who is now hosting the program, and my colleague, Vice Principal Shiftu, Dr. Rajeshri, for cooperating and brought out a wonderful program, sir. And I'm happy in felicitating the organizers. And on behalf of Guru Nanak College, I take the pleasure and privilege in welcoming you to, sir, to this online national webinar on Chennai's biodiversity, past, present, and future. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity given. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am.
yes, one. Daya, continue. Daya. Daya.
Now we
Okay.
have Dr. MURUGAVEL, Head Department of Humanities and Social Science, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Kanchipuram, the resource person of today's webinar. We are grateful to be in your esteemed virtual presence, sir. I humbly request you to address the participants who are so eager to listen to you. Over to
Yes,
sir.
once again, basically, I will do the chief guest introduction, my resource person. Okay. Good evening to all present here. I extend a warm welcome to all for the webinar. I have a very pleasant duty of introducing our resource person, Dr. T. Murugavel. Dr. Murugavel is an educator serving as head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, SRIPERUMBUDUR, Chennai. Besides this, he is a naturalist involved in the conservation of nature for the past 3 decades. He has authored several articles and books on English language teaching, few books on environment and wildlife in Tamil. His articles on nature appeared in leading newspapers like Hindu, Indian Express, Seves, and Cardu. He is also a wildlife artist and a photographer. His philatelic collections on nature conservation and snakes have won national awards. He is associated with several wildlife organizations like Environment Monitoring and Action for Conservation of Indian Raccoons. That's a brief intro about Dr. Murugavel. I invite you, sir. Now the session is yours. Thank you.
Let me thank the organizers, the management, and the organizers for the opportunity. Especially, I should thank the principal, my college mate and good old friend, for being here. And um, as you all said, Chennai has a great biodiversity, and I'm not really sure whether I'll be able to complete um, all those points within the given span of time, but I'll do justice by introducing you what has been there and how things changed as things happening in an ill-planned and unplanned manner, and what is that we have now and how we can preserve it for the future. So my presentation in the next 1 hour or so will be talking about the various aspects that contribute to the biodiversity of Chennai, that is, the various landscapes, the habitats, and then the kind of flora and fauna, and then we will go to the present and then the future. We can have the even in between, if there is any, if I request you to comment on anything, please, one of you can switch on your unmute yourself and respond to my query. And towards the end, probably we'll have our Q&A, a question and answer sessions. So let me now move on to my presentation. Um, when we talk about Chennai biodiversity, um, we are going to talk about the urban wildlife. So, what do we really mean by this urban wildlife? Is these are the animals, right from small creatures that live in the vegetation, and we can go up to the mammals, the top predators, be it avifauna, birds, or animals. So these animals have got themselves adjusted to the urban ecosystem. So they do not have the kind of original ecosystems that they are used to, but they have adjusted, altered their lifestyle to suit the environment they live in. In that way, they are successful. If any creature is not able to adjust, evolve, though evolution is a long process, if a creature is able to adjust and live in a new environment, it will continue its existence in that environment. So these are the urban wildlife we will be discussing in the next few minutes. So urban wildlife is a term that has been coined to describe wildlife that has been adapted their lifestyle to living in the concrete jungle of cities and suburban neighborhoods. So this is what we will be discussing. So Chennai, when you talk about Chennai, Chennai is very fortunate to have um, a variety, a diverse ecosystems, I should say. So this is an article that I wrote in Madras Musings newsletter. If you see the images that are there, you can see onto your left a slender loris, what we call in Tamil as Devangu, and next you have a peafowl, peacock, and then you have a civet cat, and then on the right hand side you have a great horned owl. So you might be surprised to learn that all these photographs were taken in Chennai. So imagine the kind of wildlife we have, but how many of us care to know what is around us? Be it a small lizard that lives with us in our home. We have reached a stage where we don't even want to have that lizard in our house. We are trying to find, we consider it as a pest. We are trying to find devices that would keep these creatures away from our household. But we have these Lendororis, the free ranging peacock, and civet cats, palm civet, and a great horned owl, all these things in a metropolitan city like Chennai. So this is possible because of the variety of the landscapes that we have. The Coromandel coast always had this tropical dry evergreen forest, TDEF species. Okay, this contributed to a variety of flora, but how many of these species are still in abundance is a question. As we go into the discussion, we would be talking more about this. And then we have a long shoreline, which ensures, you know, the creatures that live in the marine ecosystem are also part of the Chennai's ecosystem. And then we have swamplands, marshlands, what we call. The best example would be the Palikarnai marshland, which was almost, it was a huge area, which has been now um, shrunk into 300 hectares. But still, this is a very rich biodiversity hotspot. And then we have Guindi National Park, IIT Rajbhavan, which are a continuous um, scrubland forest, woodland in the past. Now it has been fragmented into uh, small ecosystems like Guindi National Park, IIT, and Rajbhavan, where the government's residence is. So, though we humans have fragmented it, in 1960s, one portion was given to IIT, and it was denotified, and it was no longer called as a forest land. But the animals do not know that. They still live there. But how they live is a question which we will discuss in this discussion. So this is the IIT, and with all this um, variety of habitats and ecosystems, we have this number of plants, almost 298, and this is what has been studied, and it is expected to have more. So butterflies 50 to 55, amphibians, frogs and toads 9 to 10, reptiles which include the lizards and snakes are almost 25, 30, and we have turtles 3 types and tortoises, and birds 80 to 100 I would say, and mammals 25 mammals. In total 500 to 600 different varieties. This is what contributes to the biodiversity of a metropolitan city like Chennai. And as I mentioned a little earlier, the Guindi National Park is supposed to be the smallest national park in India. So Chennai had this kind of houses in the past. So it had um, thatched roof systems like this, either tiled or with materials from palm trees. This was a thing of our past, and this house also had some amount of greenery around it. Depending on the area, they all had a garden with some fruit yielding trees, coconut trees, mango trees, guava, and also some flowering plants, which ensured some wildlife in and around the house. And this type of housing systems slowly got replaced into something like this. So, still, in some areas, there is some kind of a garden kind of a landscape around the house. This is a house next to my apartment, which ensures some vegetation. So from here, we have come to this. So as a result, what happened? So if you look at the first picture, we have some kind of small structures in the sand. This is what we call as ant lion. In Tamil, we call this as kuri nari or kuri panri or kuri puli, depending on the area you are from, you would have this. This is one stage of what you see onto your left, that insect. So this was a common sighting in in campuses, household campuses. I have seen this in my house when I was in my school and college. We used to have this at my backyard. So this structure will help this larvae, which will be inside this cone-like structure. Any ant that go past this, if it gets into the system, this structure, it won't be able to come out because of the structure. The harder it tries, it will fall into the cone core area where the insect will be waiting to suck the ant, and it will consume. So you had butterflies. All these things were part of the garden ecosystem. And on the picture parallel to the butterfly, you would see black creatures, which are slugs, slug, slugs. In Tamil, they used to call this as Vodatra Nattai, but people mistook them to be leeches that suck blood, and they used to kill them by um, putting some salt on them. So they even in my house, my mom used to do that. But now this is not a common sight anymore. But this was a very common sight in the past. Just after the rain, you would see that. So this is another jewel beetle, what we call as uh, Stenosera chrysis is the zoological name. In Tamil, we used to call this as Ponvandu because of the iridescent armor it has. It will be little more than a cockroach, and the body will have this armor plate, kind of a strong wings shield, you know. And we used to have them as pet when I was in school, but now we don't see this at all. It has completely vanished from Chennai. In some places, I rarely see them, but the small jewel beetle, which is on the right, that is still available. You can see them in scrubland ecosystems even now. But this bigger one is it's a rarity now. And now, as our lifestyles changed from small individual houses, we started living in multi-storied buildings, which was a deterrent factor to one bird and a contributing factor to another bird. The one bird that was benefited because of this high story buildings is what you see on the screen. Um, Blue rock pigeon, in Tamil what we call as Madapura. These were in the wild, they used to live in small hillocks, small hills where they used to breed in the crevices of the hills. Our multi-story buildings give them this kind of structure, our sunshades, our infrastructure for air conditioned um, boxes. All these things are excellent nesting sites for this bird. In the past, when in movies, when they talked about, when they showed images of Bombay, you will see hundreds and hundreds of this bird. Because in Bombay, even in 70s, they had this kind of multi-story buildings. But in India, sorry, in southern part of India, we had churches, we have temples, we had mosques. These were the big buildings in the past. Now you have lot of high-story buildings. When these birds started flourishing, this bird started. Okay, that image is not here. Let me see. Okay, the one bird that was affected badly is the common house sparrow. The chittukuruvi, what was a very common bird which used to be with us, live in harmony with us, is no longer found. There are several reasons for that. Only when movies like 2.0 was screened, people started talking about them. But what was there on the movie, the reasons, probably was the last reason. There were several other reasons before that. Major one was the housing. Our houses got converted into multi-story buildings. Our lifestyle changed. We no longer you know had a backyard where we had grains. We poured the waste out. Everything now goes into the sink. And grains are also not transported in gunny bags, so there is no spillage. It's all packed in plastic bags. And this is not an uncommon phenomenon in metropolitan cities world over. Even in UK, there is a very drastic reduction in sparrow population. And one scientist by name Anderson studied the reasons for this reduction, and he found that when unleaded petrol was introduced in 80s in London, the exhaust from the automobiles which used this unleaded petrol had a chemical which killed the small worms which the sparrows depended on to give to its chicks in the first few weeks. The same thing happened here in our country also. So there was no food available, there was no space for nesting, and also apart from the breeding seasons, the sparrows need to stay somewhere. For that, they were depending on the shrubs, thickets, vegetation in and around our houses, which is no longer there. I used to go visit a place in Chindadripet when we go for this sparrow survey. There used to be um, um, a climber, what we call as jasmine, the mullai. There is another name also in Tamil. That particular climber had gone to the second floor of that building, and in the evening, more than 300 house sparrows used to come and rest, stay there in the night and go flying from that in the morning. In the last cyclone, that climber, you know, was destroyed, and the bird
Excuse me, sir.
lost that. Yeah,
Sir,
yeah,
are you the
please.
same?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sir,
I'm
you
on
are.
the same slide. I didn't
Yeah,
change
yes,
the
yes.
slide.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's
Thank you,
what.
sir.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. That's what happened. So when this bird was increasing in number, sparrow population went down in the city. But still, we have some bird life left here. So this, I'm not sure how many of you are able to identify this bird. Can anyone tell me what this bird is? Any idea? You can make a guess. I'm sure you all have heard this bird more than seen this bird. This is nothing but what we call as our koel. In Tamil, we call it as kuil, Asian koel, Koel. That black one is the male, which sings. The female one is on the left, which is brown and spotted with white, gray spots and uh, red colored eyes. So not many people have seen this, but I'm sure that you all would have heard this call. Early morning, even before the crows caw, you would listen to the quail's call. They still survive in good numbers in Chennai because they are brood parasites. They don't build a nest. Um, and this bird again, I don't know how many of you still see this bird. This bird, this again is the article that I wrote in Madras Musings. This bird is this one. Um, this is what we call as Brahmini kite in English, and Tamil we call it as Garudan. Another name is Krishna Pakshi. Um, in some places we call that as Kallaparundu, but this is not Kallaparundu. This is the Kallaparundu, which is now also seen in good numbers in Chennai. But based on my observation, this number is also slowly coming down. The one that is on the left, that is how you need to identify this bird. What you see on the right is the juvenile of this bird. Brahmini kite's juvenile is what you see on the left. It will all look similar when they fly, but if you look at the v of the tail, the bird that is on the left will have um a V kind of structure, but the other one will not have that one. It will more like a U. That is the diagnostic feature. With this, you can identify in the juvenile state. But when they are grown up, this is how they look. Very easy to identify. It is supposed to be the Vahana of Vishnu. People used to pray to them. Again, this bird was a very common sight in the past. But now, if you want to see this bird, you need to go beyond Pulikat in this side, Paraverkadu, onto your Nard, or you need to go off ECR towards Pondicherry to sight this. 2 years back, this bird, one female bird was sighted. That was this picture in Anna Salai. A friend of mine was there with me. He's a raptor specialist from UK, and then he went in search of this bird in Anasali, and then we found that this bird was resting on the Spencer's Plaza. He got permission and went to the top to see whether the bird was there. It was trying to make a nest there, but it didn't have a pair. I don't know, for the past 1 year or so, I'm not able to see this bird. Whether it still survives or it's dead and gone, we really don't know. So this bird, I would say, in Chennai, it's very rare. I would even say it is locally extinct. Rarely we see that in Pulicat. Um, Sometimes in um, uh, Palikarnai, very rarely we see them. So these are gone. And also, this is a very interesting literature. I heard through CPR Center's director in one of our lectures, I think she said um, Chennai in the past was called as Puliyur. Probably this land had probably no tigers, but leopards might have been there because Romulus Whitaker have sighted leopards off Chengalpet even when he had a farmland there. The leopard had come and lifted his dog, and these are the other names that are part of the Chennai now, which indicates the kind of floral diversity we had. Palatop in Mylapore, it's still a place which is nothing but Palatopu, jackfruit orchard. And Mambalam, Mambaram is Mambalam. A lot of mango trees should have been there. Triplicane is Tiru Alli Keni. Keni is the pond. Alli is lily. Tiru is sacred or beautiful. So beautiful lily pond is Triplicane in Chennai Tamil, Tirunakalli, and Tenambet is Tenga. Tenga is now Tenambet, where a lot of coconut trees were there. And this is something very interesting. Puraisai Vakam got its name because of the Purasu trees, which is the true flame of the forest. Okay, but now what we call as Gulmahar, Delanex regia, is not even an Indian tree. It is from Madagascar. But this Palas or Purasu is the true flame of the forest. If there is one tree that still exists now, it should be in the Sivan temple, which is uh, supposed to be the Stalavarisham of that temple. And then Veperi, Vepam, Neem, Eri, Eri is no Eri is there. And Pulian Dopu, Pulian is tamarind orchard, and Panayur palm village. So now we have names of places which have trees and flora. We have a lot of other places also, like Tank Bund Road. There is no tank, no bund, but Tank Bund Road is there. Even our um, our the bus stand, Coimbatore bus stand was constructed destroying marshland. If you go there, they would have images of then and now. You will see, beautiful marshland which was, you know, destroyed, and now you have a big um infrastructure for buses. So these things are the present now. Okay, the past, the glorious past, is no longer in existence. Now we have this. This is part of Sholinganallur, little close to Palikarnai. So we have high-rise buildings which are slowly consuming our natural ecosystem. You see the flamingos, what we call as Tamil Poonare. So they are trying to adjust their lives in the urban ecosystem. And now the, in the OMR, which is supposed to be the what we proudly label as IT corridor, was nothing but floodplains. We started building high stories building like this, little away from Chennai, what we call as, suburban. This is how it is. But where will the animals, the creatures that lived in this ecosystem will go? They have no place to go. This is again, see the kind of the water bodies are garbage dump yards. The best example is Palikarnai. 30,000 acre land is now 300 acre. Huge portion of the land is now um, housing complexes. Still, some land is used for garbage dumping, garbage that is being collected from Chennai. Some area, some portion is now protected as reserve forest land, but still the garbage dumping goes on. As a result, this is what is happening. So when we expand the city, Chennai, the Tambaram and beyond, on this side, Sriperumbudur and beyond, we started constructing roads, and now we have roadkills. So on either side, you will have water body. Near Varagadam, you can see habitats like this, and ECR you can see. So these creatures which were living in these areas, when they cross the street, the roads, the speeding vehicles kill them. This is a tortoise, freshwater turtle. And now we have, 1 minute. Yeah, this is a civet cat, palm civet cat, which was trying to cross, is dead. Oh, it's gone. 1 minute, 1 minute. So this, I took this photo in a wetland. Uh, this is the reeds, what we call taifa reeds in the Korai Purkal. This was part of a water body very close to Hyundai. This is a streaked ear weaver bird, a cousin, probably a close relative of what we call in Tamil as Tukanam Kuruvi. Tukanam Kuruvi is Baya weaver, which used to nest in uh, date palm trees or palm trees, or in Acacia nilotica. Any tree that is close to a water body, you will see this um, Baya weaver, Tukanam Kuruvi. But this one used to take these uh, reeds and make a nest. Beautiful small bird, but this is no longer there. You have Hyundai and other industries there. It was a very sad sight. I don't know where these birds gone now. So this is the result of our expansion. This, I would now talk about what are the few examples that are surviving, fighting what is happening to them. This is what we call as a velvet mite This small mite, which is still seen in Guindi National Park and also in scrublands of Sirtavur. You can find them. Velvet, because of that spongy kind of body they have, very red in color. That's the color of the velvet. Jewel boxes that we have. It will be soft to touch. Just after the rains, you can see them. And this is a Domino's cockroach or Madras cockroach. What they have, or seven-spotted cockroach. Again, very common in certain parts of Chennai. Even in your certain areas around your campus, also you can find them. I'm not sure whether it is there in your campus. And blister beetles, still a common sight in scrublands of Chennai. And the snakes, you might be, surprised to see snakes in certain spots. I'll come back to this little later. And this kind of cobras, rat snakes are commonly seen even in place like Ananaga. Even last, sometime in the past, recent past, I rescued a cobra and I had to translocate it to another place. So, how do they come here is a question. If you don't want these snakes to be part of your, habitat, you should dispose waste properly. If you don't dispose the food waste, in search of food waste, rats will come. In search of rats, these snakes will come. So if the snakes like this cobra will live comfortably in a human habitation, if there is a small hole, it will go and live there. Snakes are cold-blooded creatures. They just need a place, warm place to uh, live in. If they have space to live in and food to eat, they will breed, they will lay eggs, and soon you will have small ones there. So if you don't want to have them in your place, ensure you dispose waste properly. I would love to have them, so I'm not really bothered. So going back to this one, this is a turtle. Not many know the difference between turtle and this one, tortoise. The tortoise has legs to crawl. This is the star tortoise, which is very popular because it is in news often because people smuggle them and customs officers seize them, and all these confiscated tortoises are left in Guinea National Park. Okay, so when we talk about this, um, yeah, this is Olive Ridley. This is a turtle. Okay, this is the difference between turtle and tortoise. This is a turtle, Kadalamai. So in the beginning I said, the long seashore we have. This is a nesting. Chennai is a smaller nesting uh, uh, space for these sea turtles. In Tamil, we call them as Panguniyamai. If you see at the backgrounds, you will see lot of small turtles. They are there because these these this particular species come in big numbers, but they don't come here. They come in small numbers, but Gahir Mata is in Orissa, where they come in big numbers. They they come in hundreds. So that is where this picture was taken. So this sea turtles are part of our biodiversity. They are also having problems because the trawlers, when people used to go in catamarans, there was no issue. But now um, people use trawlers with mechanized fishing system, which kill them. Accidentally, they get into the nets of fishermen. Uh, the trawlers, they don't catch what they want. It is like a pouch. It's more like a surukupai kind of structure. It takes everything that is right from the bottom of the floor. So the turtles are accidental catches. They die, suffocate, and die by the time the fishermen get them onto their boats. And also, the sea shore, the sand area is no longer clean. And more importantly, when the small ones come, they are guided by the light. If you switch off the lights of the Chennai, the coastal landscape, the sea is supposed to be the brighter side. So the hatchlings, when they come out, they automatically go towards the water because of the light from the water horizon. But now we have made this side of the city brighter. So they go towards the land, get disoriented, dry and die, or eaten by dogs. So the Forest Department and SSTCN, Student Sea Turtle Conservation Network, and few other NGOs are working to conserve these sea turtles. Um, Now they are smuggled. They are also endangered. This is spotted deer, which is still available in certain pockets of Chennai, particularly IIT, and even in your area, the free-ranging spotted deer were there, and you can still find them in Sirtavur area. And this is different. This is an antelope. That one is a spotted deer, and habitats differ. This one needs open grassland, whereas this one needs vegetation like this. But both of them exist in Guindi National Park, IIT, and Governor's Bungalow. And this spotted deer was introduced by Britishers. But whereas this one, black buck, in Tamil we call it as Veliman, had been part of our ecosystem for long, but this is an endangered species now. Spotted deer are good in numbers, and we can still see these flying foxes in good numbers. They are fruit-eating bats. They are found in probably in 600 to 700 in Theosophical Society, in museum gardens, and in even in Annanagar. In last 2 years, Annanagar tower parks have a small colony of these bats. Okay, these are still part of our ecosystem now. So the past we have seen, present is still surviving, fighting the odds. So we now come to the mammals, like we still have in certain areas jackals. This is mongoose um, jackal. In if you go to Pulicat, Paraverkadu, you can see them even in the daytime. If you go in the boat, onto your left and right, you can see them scavenging the fish that are thrown by the fishermen. This was taken there in Pulicat. It was just trying to cross a fallow land. So Now we come to the issues that are part of the habitat of Chennai. The major issues, as I said, are habitat fragmentation and destruction and human interference. So the suburban ecosystem, the natural ecosystem, is slowly consumed by the expansion of the city. So the habitat is either broken in the sense that it is fragmented or it is destroyed, or human interference, like the roadkills that we saw. So, and we as thinking individuals need to consciously do something to stop this. More than these things, we also have this. If any one of you have a cat as a pet, please don't let it go on its own. I'm talking about what we call as feral cats, Feral. Feral cats, the word feral is given to animals that are no longer pets. Once they used to be as pets, but they go into the ecosystem and start living on their own. They don't depend on the owners. So researchers have proven that, particularly in an ecosystem like Chennai or any city for that matter, the cats consume lot of birds. And what you see here is a cat eating a bird and also black-napped hare. And this is taken from, these are real photographs published in newspaper, Indian Express. This black buck was eaten, killed by the dog population, which is increasing. During COVID season, you might have seen these dogs during the lockdown. These dogs in IIT have learned how to kill as a pack. They prey on pregnant animals and injured animals. Here you see a mother and a small one killed by the dogs that live there. All these things you can refer, you can Google and see. They are taken from newspapers that published um, this killing of this black buck. As I said earlier, the black buck, the Veliman, is an endangered species, but now it is killed by the dogs. So these are the problems that exist us. So what do we do now? So as I said earlier, this again is a picture taken by me, and it was published in Hindu as an article. This was taken at Pallikarnai. These dogs very calculatedly, you know, two of them went into the marshland, went into the vegetation, flushed the bird out, and two dogs were waiting outside in the water and immediately pounced on the bird and killed. That was a purple moorhen which got killed. And in right there, they ripped the bird's wings and they started feeding. So this is how the pet animals, what we call as feral, feed on the wildlife. That's the impact. If you have a pet, ensure that you have it properly ta- uh, tamed and trained, and Lord, don't let them go free. So what are the solutions? That is one solution. Reduce the impact of the pets on the wildlife. Number two, create small habitats, create a butterfly garden. We have one in our campus, college campus. You have butterfly gardens. You have a garden if you have space. Don't go for Korean grass. There's the grasslands are no good. They are they don't support any biodiversity, and also they have a big impact on the water consumption. So use the native species. Ensure that some kind of vegetation is around your houses, even if you don't have a space, even in apartments you can have an ixora plant, iruvachi, and orium, nerium, oleander, silverparali. These are host plants for butterflies. Common crow, a butterfly will lay eggs only in orium, nerium oleander. And this ixora, hibiscus, all these plants will support birds like um, sunbirds, tenchittu. There are common three types of sunbirds, tenchittu. Purple rump sunbird, purple sunbird, and lorton sunbird. You can, just by creating some kind of shrubbery, some kind of vegetation in and around your house, you can support some insects, and where there are insects, the birds will come, and when these birds come, the predatory birds will also come. Even if it is they don't, if you don't have space, keep some nest boxes for sparrows if you find them. For miners, you can find nest boxes. You can contact me if you need nest boxes. So these are the small changes that you can make. Avoid plastics. The small changes that you can have, you know will support the biodiversity, and that's how you can ensure the biodiversity. More importantly, get to know what are the kind of birds that are around your house. That will be the first step. Tell your kids, take your kids to these natural spots in and around Chennai, so that they know what is there, so that they will understand how intricate the ecosystem is, how one is dependent on the other. So, with these things, I stop my presentation, and I would love to take some questions from the audience. Thank you.
So there is one question, is that from
Ma'am,
Surya
don't
EM.
mind. Ma'am,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
go
a
on.
question. I love to ask sir one question, sir, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah, please go
Uh,
on.
it's a wonderful session from your side. So we really enjoyed a lot of information that you have given regarding overall the history of Chennai in terms of biodiversity and future what we are actually looking at. Besides being the Dean Research of Guru Nanak College, I am also the head of the Department of Zoology. So typically this topic attracts me a lot. And one thing, as far as the department is concerned, we keep having sessions on wildlife photography. In fact, we take students for a photo walk inside our own campus, because our campus is very much attached to the Raj Bhavan, and it's a big forest area
I know.
where we can see we have an enriched biodiversity within the college campus itself. So we take the students for photo walk within the campus, and many of our students are very much interested. Right now, I was just messaging two of my students, Vignesh and Balaji. Balaji, who loves to take photographs and put it on his Instagram, and Mr. Vignesh, who's been observing the biodiversity of birds, migrant birds, for a very long period during the day and during the night. What I would like to know from our end, from the student end and from the department end, is this wildlife photography as such. Now, how do we exactly take it? We have there are students who are having a lot of passion towards it. Now, can you share your experience on this? how to over when during the day or during the lighting part of it or something. Can you throw some light where they can just pick it up and take it across?
No, I would probably once the COVID things and all get over, I would probably love and love to be there and tell your students how to shoot wildlife. The one thing that your students should keep in mind, or any wildlife photographer should uh, uh, follow, is ethics in wildlife photography. Ethics in wildlife photography, what I mean here is our impact on the wildlife should be very, very minimal. Just because I want to have a good photograph of a bird or an animal, I shouldn't disturb it in any negative manner. I should allow it to, be in its natural behavior. Only then I have to photograph. I should have least impact on the subject here, the wildlife. One. Number two, usually early mornings are always good, because that's when all the birds and animals will be active. Even snakes, you can find them in the early morning because they come to the sun to bask. Um, and at the same time, if you want to shoot owls, you need to go for the evenings or in the night. And even there, you need to learn how to shoot them with minimal impact on them. When you have a flash, these are nocturnal birds, and the flash will have a big impact on their you know eyesight. So the ethics something that we need to follow. Um, Apart from that, the composition is very important when it comes to wildlife photography. They can shoot, start learning how to compose and the lighting and other things, shooting butterflies and other insects which don't move around very easily, and then go on to birds. To be very frank, where if students have a good SLR, there is no technique which they need to learn, because everything they do on the system, which was not possible in our case. We started shooting with the manual cameras with the films. So we don't even know how the images would be unless we come to city and process them and print. So that's the advantage these kids have. If all you have to have is a good camera and a lens, and minimum of 300 to 400 lens is needed for bird photography. But macro is needed for insect photography. As I said earlier, probably we can even have a workshop. I can come with few of my friends and have a session for your students.
Definitely, sir. We will once this is over, we will call you, sir, and we would like to have a live session where you could teach our students regarding wildlife photography. But because when a passionate researcher photographer teaches it, it will be very very interesting for the students. Sir. Thank you,
And
sir.
more importantly, you can also um, uh, through our organizations, we document the wildlife in campuses. I would definitely do that, and with your friends and my organization, we can document the birds and other the biodiversity of the campus, and bring out a booklet. I can help you in that.
Yes, sir. We have a few data already available with us, which we are compiling. We would like to share this data and have some collaboration on this also, sir. Thank you very much,
Definitely,
sir.
we'll do it. Thanks a lot for this nice opportunity. It was
So we have a few
a pleasure.
questions.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Sir, would you like to take few questions? And We have
No, we can take.
Dr. Gopi. Yes, sir. Dr. Gopi has asked how about the future scenario of biodiversity in Chennai city? Is there any assumption positively or negatively?
We need to first restore what damage we have done to the system. The best example, what the government has done in the recent past is, I'm talking about in the last 10 years, is the Chemmari Punga, no, not Chemmari Punga, Tolkapir Punga, which is a restored area of the Adayar ecosystem. What was called as an Adayar Creek is now a restored ecosystem. This is the best restoration project that has happened in a metropolitan city like Chennai. Uh, After this restoration, we now have mangrove plants, mangrove forest in one area. When the mangrove plants started growing, um, that created a nice habitat for uh, fiddler crabs, mud crabs, and all these shrimps and prawns started coming to that area. And when the shrimps and prawns numbers increased, the migratory birds also came in. So now, in the last 2 years, we have been seeing painted storks breeding, though not in a big number. A small population started breeding there. So in another 10 years or so, if no disturbance is done to this place, I'm sure that this ecosystem will support a lot of biodiversity. So this is an example of restoration. And number two, we should stop the negative impacts we have on the ecosystem existing. Say, for example, the Palikarnai, the protected area should be expanded. More area should be included in the protected zone. And also, when you talk about Pulicat ecosystem, which is supposed to be the second largest lagoon in India, uh, you have ports coming up there. Um, if ports are expanded, or if you get more and more infrastructure, I'm sure that the ecosystem will die. So one, you need to restore. Number two, reduce the negative ecosystem the impacts on the existing ecosystem. And number three, create small habitats like what you have in your campus, and also in other campuses, small ecosystems should be created and protected. And the most important thing, number four, is make kids involved in this kind of projects. They should know what is around them, and they should know how to protect them, because they are the future. If you do these four things, we will not only protect what we have, we'll also increase the system. If as on date, I would say is negative, unless and until we intervene and make some change, it won't be positive. Thank you. I assume that answer gave some sense. Any questions? Any more?
Yes, sir, it's popped up on your screen. Our MSc
Okay.
student posed two very interesting questions for you. Mr. Sesha Panindra Sharma has put that, sir, does the increased cyclonic activity, frequent storms in the Bay of Bengal, does it have an effect on the biodiversity in Chennai?
Definitely, the cyclones, don't do any good. The cyclones, the unpredictable weather, it is an example of the global warming. Though many people have two ways of, interpretation. Even people like Michael Crichton say that the global warming is a myth. So the destructions, the cyclones, what they bring in, definitely they will have a negative impact on the system, because a lot of trees, get uprooted during cyclones and storms, and a tree in an urban ecosystem is very, very important. These trees fell down, get uprooted easily because they are non-native species. If you have native species like ilupai or punnai, uh, this is another area we need to concentrate on. Depending on the area where you live, you need to know what kind of plant need to be planted. For example, punnai tree needs to be planted only near coastal areas. In Tamil, in those, even in Sangam literature, you have these four landscapes, you know, Mullai, Kurinji, Neidal, Palai, Marudam, these five landscapes. So, Punna is a neither landscape plant. So, that can be planted along the shore near Besan Nagar, Adayar, in those areas. So, depending on the area, you need to plant the tree saplings so that they sustain and live long. So, the understanding of the ecosystem and understanding of the species is very essential.
So,
Thank you for the
so this
question.
is another question by our own student, who MSc student from Andaman, is asking that. So my question is: apart from various conservation and media practices, there is very less improvement, and also what about the endemic species, as they cannot adapt to live in any other conditions.
Yeah, as it's a very nice question because a lot of so-called developmental activities are happening in Andaman and Lakshadweep, which I'm sure will have a great negative impact on the ecosystem there. And endemic species are very unique species that can live only in that particular habitat. So if there is a habitat loss, it will have a direct impact on the endemic species also. So this example, if we relate this to a landscape like Chennai, this Veliman, as I said, the blackbuck is an endemic species, and it needs open space, open grassland. Say, for example, in IIT, the open grasslands are got converted into cricket grounds and playing grounds. So the natural grass ecosystem is lost, and also a lot of infrastructure development consumed these open grasslands. So it will have a direct impact on the endemic species. So, particularly Andaman and island ecosystems are very unique, and they need to be preserved if the endemic species that depend on these ecosystems need to be preserved. So that's very essential. Particularly that those things can happen only if there is will of the government. The government should play a major role in these conservation efforts.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that is all regarding the questions. Now we will complete with the formal vote of thanks, sir. Daya, you can take over.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions. It was a very interesting question and session. Thank you.
We have come to the end of this wonderful session. On behalf of all the participants, I'm happy to say that we all enjoyed it and feel grateful to be a part of this enriching webinar. Now I request Mr. Ravi Shankar, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology, to deliver a vote of thanks. Over to sir.
Thank you, Dayasri. Good evening to all. I give a really heartfelt vote of thanks to our resource person, Dr. MURUGAVEL, Head Department of Humanities and Social Science, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, who spent his busiest time gracing the occasion. Today we had the opportunity to hear your excellent presentation starting from urban wildlife, animal, Chennai past and present with rare photos, different fruits and tree names for various places in Chennai, major issues, and a solution. The presentation was so wonderful, sir. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our Honorable Secretary, General Secretary, and Correspondent, Sardar Manjit Singh Nair, our Principal, Dr. M.G. Raghunathan, and Vice Principal, Dr. N.C. Rajeshri, for the moral support, guidance, and motivation. I would like to thank our Dean IT, Mrs. S. Nirmala Devi, for her guidance to us in all our activities. I extend our sincere thanks to Dr. J. Jayanti, Dean Research and convener of this webinar, the dynamic and flexible person for gracing this occasion. I also thank Dr. J. Vanati, HOD B.Sc IT and Organizing Secretary for this webinar, who is acting as the energy source. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. S. Sharmila for her moral support and all HODs and staff members of various departments. I must thank the volunteers Dayasri and Aditya Rajesh for working hard for the past few days to make this webinar successful. I would like to thank all the participants for their kind cooperation in this webinar. Thank you everyone once again for making it a great success. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks a lot. Been a pleasure being here. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, sir.